what people need to understand when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's not an either or. This is whatever journey you want it to be. You could work your 9 to 5, have your side hustle that's profitable, or you can decide to, leave your 9 to 5 and move towards just working and having your business as your main source of income. Entrepreneurship is hard. Now, you can understand business and you can understand how to grow a business for someone else. But someone that truly has an entrepreneurial spirit will be okay with the hard work it takes to create something from scratch and work on it on their own. We need to get rid of this narrative of work ourselves to death and not truly step into what our purpose is in life, our true purpose in life. And I found mine, so find yours.
Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, episode number 250.
Oh, remember the day when you were like, I'm out at 200?
No, still barely just stringing along here.
Just enough to annoy me.
My name is Andrew.
And my name is Michelle. Welcome to the podcast.
Yes, welcome, everyone.
So, Andrew, I had a that's what she said moment in clinic this week. I couldn't wait to tell you.
Oh, I'm so excited. Do share with the audience.
Okay. So where I'm at, the way that they set it up sometimes, if there's a patient that's going to be seen by the hygienist and then right after by the dentist, they put it in the dentist operatory because the dentist has 2. So he'll bounce back and forth, right? So in this one op, that is his like regular op. I mean, it's a very similar, it's an ADEC setup and it's got the unit where you kind of like pull the handpiece up and over. It has like the arm.
Yes, I've seen those ones. Yeah.
Whereas my hygiene unit is like the smaller one with the tray and you have to pick up out of the docking station, right? And then there's like a smaller little tiny arm on the other side that has like your suction and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm very used to this little tiny arm with tray on it. Not heavy at all, right? So I go into and I've been in this room a few times, but that tray setup is heavy. It's a lot heavier, right? And it's just harder to maneuver. And I didn't bring my saddle stool and I was not enjoying it. Like I was just being very awkward in his like space, And it was a male patient. And at one point I was like trying to move the thing to bring it closer because I couldn't get the handpiece to actually retract and come like close enough to the patient without this stupid unit being like all up on my shoulder and stuff. I just don't even know how people work with this, but anyway. And I'm moving this thing and I'm going, oh my God, his unit is so big.
Didn't. Oh, you didn't. Oh my gosh. Good for you for getting that out there.
I died behind my mask, I will say.
Did the patient?
Well, first I died and then, no, nothing at all. And then I kind of wanted I wanted like that Michael Scott moment where somebody just popped up and was like, that's what she said. But then I just continued to like die behind my N95 mask. I'm just so happy for all the world's PPE right now because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that.
So do you think the patient noticed that something happened and just ignored it, or were they like oblivious to the fact that that's what you said?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, I just kept going and talking about all the random stuff like happening in his mouth.
Yeah.
Hopefully it was like a fleeting moment. And also people already have a harder time hearing me behind the face shield and the N95 or KN95, whatever I'm wearing that day. So I'm just hoping I just like mumbled.
Yeah.
Because I was also huffing and puffing trying to move this thing.
That giant unit of his.
That giant unit.
Yeah.
So I would love to know, listeners, have you ever said, that's what she said?
I think that there's so much sexual innuendo that we have in dentistry with just Being around the oral cavity.
Well, just the fact that oral, like my friends ask me that all the time. They're like, how can you say oral so much and keep a straight face?
Yeah.
And I was like, because I've disassociated.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But every time I'm like, yeah, oral health or the oral cavity, they're like,
man,
you're children.
I do envy the fact though that you're in a situation where you can make those types of mistakes. I know it's only been 2 months, but I miss clinical so freaking much. And I have had my fair share of saying not just like things like that, but I've said stupid things to patients. And I'm just like, man, I'm glad no one caught me on that one. Like having those awesome experiences, man, I missed out.
Yeah. I mean, there's some really good ones. And, my favorite / also hated moments or hated situations is when it's usually the dentist. I don't think it's ever been another clinician, but the dentist is so unaware of the things that they have said or that they are saying to the patient. And I'm just like, I'm probably melting behind all of my PPE even more than my stupid, that's what she said moment.
Yeah.
I'm just like, stop speaking, shut your mouth, stop speaking. I want you to suddenly have cotton mouth. Like I just need you to stop.
And then Daniel, if you can, Daniel's our editor, by the way, everyone, I want you to just isolate those things of her saying, stop speaking. And then we'll just use that throughout like the rest of our history together. So that every time I start talking, it should be
a part of our intro.
And then it's for me, it's like, stop speaking. I wish he'd have cotton mouth. That'd be so good.
Oh gosh, if we could go back and isolate the 250, like there's always some kind of some moment in the last 250 episodes. I just can't even believe it.
I feel like at this moment with 250, we need to have like what we do every now and again is like, where's this relationship going?
Well, we are about to have kind of a little get together where you and I can brainstorm.
Yes.
Coming up in a few weeks or something. I don't know. I don't even know what day it is half the time, but I feel like it's coming up. So it'll be nice to have that recap moment. Because I'm sure if I'm feeling this way, there's somebody else, maybe only like a person out there that thinks like I do or feels like I do, but maybe I can help somebody. But do you remember, because you made a very astute observation when I started clinical and I was like, this shit's killing me. Like just after the pandemic, right? Like, gone back to it after solid 6 months of not seeing patients because I was gone a week because I was traveling, COVID, pandemic, shut down everything. And then the clinic just has not come back. So now I'm temping, right? And I told you, like, I am dying at the end of the day. I don't know what it is. Like, how did I ever like do clinical and jump on a plane and go to the West Coast and then get off and have a meeting? And like, I'm dying. And you were like, well, maybe it's the emotional impact of patient care. Yeah. And I hate that wooey stuff. But after pondering that pretty astute observation, I must give you credit for.
Thank you. Wow, this feels great. Praise
Don't isolate this moment. Don't isolate this moment, Daniel. Thank you. I think that's absolutely correct. After being in isolation, the energy exchange that you get with patients, like every hour on the hour, and we don't always have time to like process through we're being caregivers and we just kind of like hop from one to the next, and that energy exchange is truly exhausting. And I think this week I started to identify like what I was feeling more my rhythm of seeing patients.
Nice.
Because I think for the first few weeks, I was out of practice of not hand skills, not any of that, but my motivational interviewing that I love to do with patients. So I was constantly like, oh, I didn't ask that question. I could have said that differently. I wonder if they're going to be as motivated when, like, I was taking on this burden of like doing it wrong, even though, I mean, at least it's something, but I always felt like I was not getting it right. Plus, I've just been seeing so many patients with tongue ties and scallop tongues and sleep issues. And I'm just like telling them, I'm giving them advice, but it's a burden of like, will they go? I hope they get help. I don't know. Could I have said it differently? This person responded to the way I said it this way, but this one didn't respond as much, but maybe they're thinking, and it was just like all of these things playing in my head. and I'm not processing them at the end of the appointment, I'm like leaving it to the end of the day where it's so heavy. And then the next day, you remember I was saying, I was like, I feel sick the next day. And then of course my COVID hypochondria comes in to it. And I'm like, I got it. I knew it.
I remember you saying that to me, like, you don't have it. Stop it.
I don't know. So maybe there's some people out there that's feeling that same thing. Maybe you feel the heaviness at the end of the day. Maybe you're feeling the weight at the end of the week. Maybe you feel like you can't go through the weekend. You have no energy, which is how I was feeling like the day after. And hopefully you can find a way to process that. I'm definitely trying to like remember that as long as I'm doing something and I'm making an effort to not be so hard on myself. And I think that's made a big difference too.
I think that is the best takeaway from all of this that you and any of our listeners can do. Just don't be so hard on yourself. There are plenty of articles and studies that are starting that talk about even the fact that we just don't know how to communicate with each other anymore. We don't know how to behave in social atmospheres that we once used to. And this is like zero compared to what you're going through, but I was watching a TV show the other day and they weren't wearing masks on the show. And I'm like,
oh, it's so awkward and anxiety.
I'm like, oh no, that's normal. Actually what they're doing and what we're doing now is not the norm, which maybe it should be, but like, that's just, who knows, who cares what that is, but that is our everyday, like psychological. And then when we see something like that, it takes us out of it. But yeah, let's not be too hard on ourselves. Let's, really try and fix what you can fix and be chill.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. And I had a chiropractor once, and whatever where you land on chiropractors or not, that's beside the point. But this one chiropractor, he was right next door to my office. So I would go, once a week after, because I was literally just, my body ached and ached and ached. And he, after a while of seeing me, he's like, listen, you come in here on Thursday evenings after a full week of heavy, and I'm seeing periodontal patients, like heavy patient care. He's like, I want you to go into this room and like lay on this little massage mat. And he's like, I literally want you to like breathe in and breathe out. And while you're doing it, you're like, breathe in the positive, exhale the negative, inhale the positive, exhale the negative. He's like, I just need you to like process the energy exchanges that you've had in this day before you come and sit in my chair. Cause he's like, I don't think this is muscular. I don't think this is adjustment. And he's like, I think you take on a lot as a caregiver, just like all of us. And it weighs heavy on your body after a while.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps somebody. And also, I think that this interview today is going to help some people. We have the amazing Jasmin Haley on, who has been a repeater. And
deservedly so. Yeah. She's awesome.
Absolutely. It was a fantastic interview with her. I know everybody's going to enjoy it. I know the series, I'm hoping it resonates with some people and really either helps you kind of go, oh yeah, I could totally do something outside the op. I can be an entrepreneur. I can do these things. Or you start to like take initiative and be a leader on maybe some small project in the office, just taking ownership and but you mentioned earlier, like we're learning how to communicate with ourselves, and she and I talk a little bit about that amongst some other things, but it was just a fantastic conversation. And I think you guys are all going to enjoy this episode with Jasmin Haley.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine.
So listeners, I have a return guest on. Jasmin, how many times has it been? I don't know. I've lost count. Usually I have a track.
First of all, oh my God, I think this is maybe my fourth time. When you ask me again, I'm like, they want me back again?
It feels right. I feel like 4 times.
I mean, I love talking to you or Andrew.
Yeah, just me, because we don't need Andrew.
Girl power.
No, he's going to listen to this and be like, that's it. I'm coming back on. Like you said, I couldn't come on. Now I'm coming on. Well, let me formally introduce you. Jasmin Haley is on the podcast today. Return guest Jasmin Haley, who also has her own podcast and a lot of other things. And I'm really excited to bring you on for this particular month's series because I'm really wanting to talk about and focus on I feel like there's a lot of synergy in these terms, like getting out of the op, leadership skills, entrepreneurial skills, and not that all of those things have to be out of the op too. Because I do want to really focus on the fact that you can be an entrepreneur there while in the op and also show leadership skills, business skills, all of that jazz. Like you don't have to like beeline it out of the op to do all those things. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but that's essentially kind of the essence of this series that I am really excited about. So thank you. Welcome for coming back on and tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days.
Absolutely. So I just want to say that you're not rambling on, you're speaking straight facts. Because what people need to understand when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's not an either or. This is whatever journey you want it to be. You could work your 9 to 5, have your side hustle that's profitable, or you can decide to, leave your 9 to 5 and move towards just working and having your business as your main source of income. So get out of your head that leadership has anything to do with leaving the op. In fact, there's essential skills that we need to have, unfortunately, that we're not taught in school that are necessary for life in general. And in fact, many of us are burnt out prior to COVID happening. Like it just, stuff hit the fan. Like I don't cuss, but I just want to say ish hit the fan, right? With COVID, right? But there was a lot of other things that we needed to work on prior to this happening. And now we have a larger influx of people who are disgruntled about our profession. And so I want you to know that pursuing things that are honoring your God-given gifts is going to provide a larger level of satisfaction in your life. Okay, that's the missing piece, is that we're not honoring ourselves. We don't know who the heck we are, and we're not honoring ourselves. So who am I? I'm Jasmin Haley. I'm an award-winning national speaker, podcaster, pro educator, and I'm a biz strategist. And I started off loving dentistry at the age of 13, wanted to become a dentist, and decided to go into a vocational high school program in New York City for dental assisting, graduated, became a dental hygienist after, was going to go into dentistry, but decided to fall in love and start a family. I have worked in the world of education and have specialized in working with persons living with HIV, substance use disorder, and working in a trauma-informed way. And I have explored being an educator, an influencer as well, speaking all across the country. I've created a business called Beyond the Prophy that still exists. And in 2019, I decided to venture away from just supporting dental hygienists. And now I'm in a whole different industry now, where as a biz strategist, I help entrepreneurial women overcome their fear and doubt and scale their business to 100K. So I don't believe in limitations, obviously. And I feel like you can make whatever you desire come into fruition. It's really just a matter of you. You're blocking your own self.
That's the truth. Because, I feel like when you and I first met, 4 or 5 years ago, there was a lot of talk about getting out of the op, and it's not to put that down, because some people are either discovering that this was not their career path. Like dentistry seemed like a real good idea when they were 18, 19, 20 years old going into it, or even as a second career, and has, since learned that maybe that's not their forever career. And ain't nothing wrong with getting out if that's the case. But I think you're right. Like a lot of people are burned out, and instead of looking at all the things that they do love about their career and going, how can I capitalize on this? How can I make this something that will make me money? They just kind of like run from it. And, you have Beyond the Prophy. There's a lot of Beyond the Op courses. There's a lot of like even courses when we go to conventions and stuff like that about like, what can you do outside of the op? And I'm always like, but do we really want to be out of the op? I feel like so many of us still love it, but we're, like you said, just burned out.
They're burned out. And let's face it, most of y'all want to keep your check coming every 2 weeks. Let's keep it real. Okay. Y'all got bills to pay. Okay.
Yes.
So like when I decided Beyond the Prophy, it wasn't because I wanted people to get to a place of, okay, it's time to leave the op. No, Beyond the Prophy is a mindset. Okay, so let me backtrack. When I went into education, I thought that this was going to be the final job. That was it. I wound up walking into the gates of hell, a toxic work environment, and I thought that if I was going to still be who I am, right, everything will work out fine. I'll just be nice, or I'll just ignore it. And it turned into stress-induced illness. I wound up getting very, very sick, repeated visits to the hospital, and nothing was changing. Now, partly what wasn't changing was that I needed to do the inner work for myself. I needed to heal some past traumas I dealt with as a child. I needed to learn how to deal with stress. I also needed to learn how to have some boundaries and not let certain toxic work or energy or individuals enter my life. And that kind of work, starting that process, led me into entrepreneurship. That's what led me there. And it allowed me to take gifts that I've always had. I've always had these gifts. I remember in high school, I won an award for extemporaneous speech, a national award, a statewide award for that. And I've always had this gift of speech. I just needed to tap into that and understand what my greatness was. So what are your gifts? What are the things that make your heart sing? Tap into that. And tapping into that doesn't mean leaving clinical care. I just so happen to have gifts that I want to explore outside of clinical care, but I still love dentistry. I still very much love dentistry.
Yes. And I'm curious if you, in your new quest to help people be entrepreneurs and business leaders and women, just kind of empowering other women, do you feel like everyone has like a little bit of an entrepreneurial soul? And I say that also bringing up that on your podcast, I brought up that I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was real happy getting that paycheck and being a W-2 employee to the day I died. But also I don't like being told what to do. So it was a constant conundrum for me.
Oh man, we just the same. Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, can you pay me? And then also just let me do my thing. Like, no, that's not how this is going to go. All right. Well, I guess I got to go figure this out now.
This is your practice? Really?
Wait a second. What? Your license, your practice? You want to pay me to do what for you? No, I'm going to do this, but I still want that paycheck.
I think that's hilarious. I don't think every single person has a little entrepreneurial. Honestly, I don't. Entrepreneurship is hard. Now, you can understand business and you can understand how to grow a business for someone else, but someone that truly has an entrepreneurial spirit will be okay with the hard work it takes to create something from scratch and work on it on their own. And so some people think they want that because at that point they don't understand who they are and they are not happy in their life. So they think that, oh, well, because I see you doing what you enjoy and love, I want that. And so I've met clients who are not meant to be entrepreneurs. They were stating that, but they're not really ready for that hard work. You really have got to be in a frame of mind where when you aren't making money, you're still happy to wake up and create what you're doing. So I feel like even if you weren't in dentistry, you would have been pulled in some other way to take your leadership in that form. Everyone's leadership journey is completely different. We have decided entrepreneurship is the way that we're going to do that. Some people's leadership may be in a DSL and they're perfectly happy right there. And so that's where I just want to encourage us as dental professionals is if I ask you right now, if I say to you, Michelle, who are you? What are you good at? What are your strengths? If you tell me right now that you can't answer that question, then you already know that you need to do some work. We have dental professionals walking around here like complete zombies. They get up, they wash themselves, they take care of, hopefully they wash themselves, they take care of their family, right? They go to work, they do their job, they come back home. It's like just straight robots. They do nothing to take care of themselves and pour into themselves. They don't read anything besides the signs on the street, whatever. There's just
or whatever's on social media.
They're doing nothing to progressively grow and get better. And that's where, as human beings, we do best when we are evolving, not not into the, evolution part, but just like mindset wise, the mind, and when we're taking care of ourselves. So I think a lot of that impacts. And so when we have to look at leadership, we've got to redefine what that means, and not think that it has to be linked with entrepreneurship. Although I do help women who are building their businesses.
So that's interesting that I'm curious about, because you do have the MOMgienists podcast as well.
Yep.
I am not a mom, so I don't, even though I've probably been in those moments of being a zombie RDH, and I think that's a great way of explaining it. Like just like dragging yourself to your job, getting it done, going about the day. And I've been back at clinical dental hygiene 1 day a week, and it's kicking my butt. I ain't gonna lie. Like, it is kicking my butt.
Hard work.
It is hard work. And I mean, I've been doing clinical hygiene. I don't know why. Like, I took this COVID 6 months off, and now I feel like I can't get, it's like I took the time off from the gym and I can't manage to get back into it, kind of thing. But if you're a mom, like, and you do have those moments of, I got to help these other little things survive for a minute, and then I'll come back. Is there a way to do that mom life, hygiene life successfully and kind of pour into yourself in a way?
You have to define what success means to you. That's the first step for me, because what's successful to me may not be what's successful for Christy or Karen. So Christy and Karen are the co-hosts of the MOMgienists podcast. I'm an entrepreneur. So is Christy, but she makes t-shirts, and she's also a clinical hygienist. Karen's a clinical hygienist. Our levels of success are dependent upon ourselves. So define that first. The second thing that I noticed from working with some of my clients who are starting a business and are, just getting out of clinical is we don't have any boundaries. A lot of us don't have any boundaries. We are service providers through and through, and we're constantly serving people nonstop all day, including our mates and our children. So at some point, then it goes again, we have to maintain our individual identity. Having individuality is necessary. It's necessary for us to be completely grounded as individuals. And so I would ask themselves, if they feel like they're running nonstop, are you honoring yourself? There's a quote here that I just heard from Brene Brown. Let me read it to you. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of a parent. This is from Dr. Carl Jung.
Ooh.
And let me tell you something. My mother died at 69 years old about 7 years ago. And my mom was a single parent. So she was very limited. I am thankful I have a partner, but I also let my partner know that when I need me a daggone break, I'm out. Like, I wasn't here by myself making this baby. You know what I'm saying? You were with me too. Okay. So you are fully capable and fine. Some of us as moms aren't strong enough to just say, I don't have to be there for every single thing. Some of us are not strong enough to say, I don't have to be everything to everyone. So that's a measure of self-love, right? And saying, I'm deserving of having this quality time. So this quote again, I'm going to read it to you again. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of her parent. My mother died at 69. She was miserable. She was stressed out, constant stress my entire life. And there was things that I found in her journal. She had desires. She never pursued them. Even after we were grown enough to take care of ourselves, she never did. She constantly wallowed on the pain that she's dealt with. She never handled that trauma. So a lot of my push to do what I'm doing is, for me, I said to myself, I can't live like this. I can't live my life caged. So it comes to a measure of understanding there's a reality. You may not have as much time as Jasmin. Everyone's circumstances are different, but you need to be very intentional about taking the time to take care of yourself. That's a good leader. That's a true leader, because of what you're showing to your children is that's important as well. We need to get rid of this narrative of work ourselves to death and not truly step into what our purpose is in life. Our true purpose in life. And I found mine. So find yours.
I don't know if this was something I saw on your thread or someone else's out there, but I saw something that kind of spoke to that same quote of, well, and maybe the quote itself at what you just said, that we're all juggling, and some of the balls are glass balls and some of them are plastic balls. and some of those plastic balls will be in the kid world and some of those will be plastic ball or glass balls, you're going to probably drop something. Just make sure that it's the plastic balls and not the glass ones, right? Like, so, you know, if you miss mommy's day donut morning, whatever, it's not the end all be all. And maybe that's a plastic ball that you drop. But is it that you're not showing up for them routinely at home, after hours, all those things? That's a glass ball. We don't want to drop that one, kind of thing. And I think the same would go like with your leadership in an office and in your life. Like, we're all going to drop some stuff. Like, it's inevitable. Like,
yep.
And if you think you're not, or you think you haven't, then you're probably driving yourself crazy.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I really love that analogy. I was just asked today what value stood out most for me in my life. And I would have to say integrity, because when people hear integrity, they think, oh, well, you've got to be honest. No, it's me keeping my integrity with myself and honoring myself and knowing when I need that space and that time, and setting boundaries and having those difficult conversations with my husband if I feel like he's not honoring the own boundaries I've set, or those boundaries I've set with my kids. It's also keeping integrity with, you know, my business and saying that I'm going to practice what I preach. So I just literally had to hire a community manager for my business because I felt like my clients were needing me so much, yet they were paying a group membership fee and not a fee for a private one-on-one client. And what was happening was I was feeling burnt out. So like, you have to be well grounded enough to look for those signs of when you're not honoring yourself. And that's why integrity is so much bigger. Integrity also would be me not choosing to bring certain type of people into my life anymore, or saying, you know what, it's been great. It's been an interesting journey we've had, but I know that I'm not honoring myself by allowing this type of behavior into my life. So I'm going to choose to put a barrier. Those are things that we have to all consider. And I think when I think about dentistry, we're always talking about the clinical, you know, our patients. And we don't realize that we're living our lives every single day, creating our own legacy. Like I said today, if I was to go tomorrow, I would have no regrets because I am living in my purpose and I'm choosing myself. And by choosing myself, it's not selfish.
No, it's definitely not.
It's self-sustenance. It's for me so I can be the best person I can possibly be, so I can be the best mom and the best wife and the best friend as I can be, even though I never call anybody on the phone. But you know,
but you send audio text messages and I appreciate those.
I'll text you. We'll get on the phone every once in a while, but it's not going to be every day. Come on.
No. But I actually enjoy not being the case, because when I do get on the phone with my friends, it's like really good. Like, I'll be there for an hour and I love it.
Yeah.
It's like just and bouncing. Well, it's also why I love podcasting. Like, I get to chat with people in long form. I love it.
Yeah.
But to speak to that, like us pouring into our patients and stuff and taking care of ourselves, way back when, this is probably a solid 7 years ago, when, you know, I was pretty burned out in my own, you know, perio practice full time, teaching in the evenings, also trying to get my master's degree, like, and taking care of my grandfather who had Alzheimer's. Like, it was a very, very stressful time. And I would go to the chiropractor at the end of the day because my body was just given out, which was probably more emotional than physical. And he actually said to me, he's like, you know, when you come in here, sometimes I want you to just go like sit in this room and have like some kind of like little massage chair or whatever, a roller pad. And he's like, I want you to literally breathe. But when you're breathing in, I want you to think, I'm breathing in the positive and exhaling the negative. I'm bringing in the positive, exhaling the negative. And he's like, listen, you take on everyone's emotional stress, every patient that you see, every person you interact with during the day, and that will manifest in discomfort, in physical discomfort. And he's like, as much as I think you might need, you know, something here or there, an adjustment, a massage or whatever. A lot of it, I think, when you hurt at the end of the day, it's the emotional journey that you've been on all day without recognizing that and going like, I'm going to like breathe in this new positive energy and I'm going to exhale everyone else's negative energy that I've been holding on to all day. And I know that's sometimes a little wooey for people, but I thought, just from a mental meditation standpoint, I thought it did amazing things.
It's real. It's not woo-woo. It's real. Every person, even though we're not physically in the same room, this is an energy exchange. If I came to you like, yeah, you would feel that.
Yeah.
You would feel that. So what you just said is really important, as if we're working clinically, or it doesn't matter what you're doing. Anytime you are having some sort of energy exchange with people, you have to give some sort of space to be able to release that. And that's everything we're talking about right now. So I don't care whether it is meditation. I don't care if it's you twerking to some song, in between. Whatever you need to do to release that pressure and that energy for yourself, do that. And I think a lot of people come onto these podcasts and they just like, well, expert so-and-so said do this. And then another one, next guest you have come in. Well, expert so-and-so do that.
Something different.
You've got to understand that a true leader is listening to their intuition and focusing on what's best for them. So again, it boils down to this one thing. Like we're talking about leadership and entrepreneurship. It boils down to what the heck do you want? What do you need? And be okay with whatever that answer is. And find ways to incorporate what it is that you need in your daily life. A book that I'm going to recommend that you read that I just read is The Big Leap. And then the subsequent book after that one. So it's The Big Leap, read that one first. And then the one after that is The Joy of Genius. We've got to understand that these limits that we put on ourselves are placed by ourselves. And depending on what your experience in life has been, you may resort to a normal that's unhealthy for you because that's all you've seen. So I consciously have to make a decision every day to create a life that I did not see growing up. That's scary.
It is. It really is.
But it's possible. It's possible. So when people say, well, I don't have time, when you have Dr. Uche coming over here talking about, health tips and what have you, and you have like all of these other experts that are coming on sharing these, I don't have time. I don't have time for that. That's you. That's you not creating it. It's your upper limit issue. So figure out what needs to change, what needs to be removed from your life that's not pouring into you at this point, and then make a decision to change. Take action.
So I would even say, is that you would call that out too if you are just situations popping in my head right now are like the moments when you ultimately love your practice because you love your patients. There's a lot of positives about it. Maybe you love your clinical area. You get the equipment that you need. It's 2 minutes from your house. You can ride your bike, whatever it is, right? Like you love that. But then there's these, maybe it's the doctor, maybe it's an assistant, maybe it's an office manager that is driving you crazy, or there's something happening that's really kind of pulling you down. Would a leadership skill or somebody that wants to step into that leader role be able to find a way to work in that situation and maybe help the office pivot? Or do you think a leader would say, I'm not going to work for this, like none of this is going to work for me ultimately, and like leave the practice?
So we didn't mention emotional intelligence, which is really important in order to handle some difficult circumstances and conversations with people. You have to be discerning enough to know when the culture of the practice that you are in is open to change. So if you provide your strengths, your skills and expertise to improve the practice and it's rejected on multiple occasions, then as Dr. Maya Angelou says, when people show you who you are, believe them the first time. So there are practices that are open to change, and there are those that are not. There are corporate jobs that are open to change, and there's those that are not. So you've got to make a decision. Are you going to make your current circumstances work the way it is? Are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to let it go and not complain every single day to your partner or your girlfriend on the phone? Are you going to let that go? If you cannot honestly deal with it, then you know that it's possibly time for you to move on. So that's a question that you have to answer for yourself. I knew that after almost 5 years, that there was not going to be any changes in that culture, no matter what I did. And so therefore, it was either I continue to stay in that environment and get sicker, or make the decision to leave and pursue another position. But I'll tell you this much, though. People always talk about the universe. I am a believer in God. As soon as I let go of that position, another one popped up. Okay. And then at that point, I was working part-time, working on my business, growing Beyond the Prophy. I was dealing with toxic energy with the state association. Okay. We can go on forever about stories like that. Okay.
Oh, I know.
This is a volunteer association. Why do you have a stick so far up your butt right now? Right. So anywho, I decided, yeah, right. Egos. All right. So I decided to say, I'm going to leave my position in the middle of my position. It was heartbreaking for me. I really wanted to stay there, but I had to make a difficult decision. Will these circumstances change? Will my strengths be appreciated? And the realization was it was not. Y'all, I let go of that position, which I don't recommend to everyone. You got to really think about it, because what happened was, because of me losing and letting go of that position by choosing myself, some people thought, well, how dare she? She's not that good of a leader.
Right.
But let me tell you what happened. That same week, I got called to be an educational consultant at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. I was the first educational consultant that was a dental hygienist that was brought in to educate and work in an interprofessional group where I was working and standing side to side with physicians, pharmacists, nurses, dentists, and working towards building graduate level education on HIV. And because of that work, almost 2 years later, I got awarded the 2018 Sunstar RDH Award, because I made that decision earlier to let go of something that was not the best fit for me, regardless of what other people thought. It takes a measure of courage and bravery to do that. And I have no regrets. So even though I am not on the national track of moving up for ADHA, I've met some amazing people. I think we were at an ADHA event when we first met, or RDH, one of those.
One of them.
But it's not the end all and be all. And I'm courageous enough to live my journey, my life on my terms. And I'm still winning, y'all. Okay.
Yeah, you are. Yes, ma'am. But I think so. And I've done something very similar, left job, and things just opened up. But I don't also want to be like, just do it, because it's scary as hell.
It is scary.
It is scary. And it's a big decision. I'm kind of one of those people that, I don't know. I have this constant conundrum of like, run. They're creating creating complications in your life. Get the hell out. Like, peace out. I'm very on with Dr. Angelo's, like, if they show you, I'm like, you look like trouble. I'm gonna go ahead and.
Yeah. If you see crazy walking down the street, cross it. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm real good at that. But I also have this, like, I was given a task and I need to complete that. People are relying on me. I need to be there. I need to serve it up to them. My patients need, like that. That's true. Needing that self, what's the word I want to use? Like, it's just that emotional attachment that you have to being a caregiver, and also providing and whatever for whatever task it is that you're having. So I have that. I will be in that toxic relationship, if it's work, if it's whatever, because there's somebody that ultimately will need me, but also I'm gonna run. Like, it's just
okay. So I like to backtrack on that and just say, yes, you need to be strategic. If you can't pay your mortgage, okay, we're not telling you to just hop skip. I have been in a job that I've stayed at for over a year, and I was miserable, but I needed to take care of my family. However, I hear what you're saying, Michelle, but this book called The Top 5 Regrets of Those Dying, you need to read this book. It's by Bonnie Ware. And the position you decide to leave, they're going to be fine. If you drop dead tomorrow, they're going to find a replacement. And I'm not saying that you're irreplaceable, but in a work situation, in a business situation, for me having a business goes on.
It's insert human in a lot of positions.
So in the instance of me leaving that position, I think this is the first time I'm talking about it like this on a podcast. And why do I choose A Tale of Two Hygienists to do that with all y'all listeners? But
because you're going to help so many people.
When I left that position, it was not easy. It was not easy. In fact, I felt like some people treated me differently because I did. But at the same time, they're fine. They're still thriving. Like they're doing okay. And it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. So I'm not saying that you should never fulfill your roles. But the difference was that I was doing my role. I was doing it 150%, no problem. So no one can say to me, Jasmin, you get into roles and leadership and you just boom, you don't do what you're supposed to do. You're lazy, you're this. No, I'm not that way. I made a decision to leave something that was unhealthy for me and my family. And I am comfortable enough in saying, I choose me. And we need, especially as women, need to get to a place where we state that. When do we say enough is enough with toxic and horrible behavior from people? Because people see it and they allow it to continue. That it runs rampant in our industry. No one says, no, that's it. Why do we have to accept that? I'm not accepting that in my life anymore.
No. And I'm almost gonna, if you feel like that's not happening in your office, it might be you.
It could be. I mean, a lot of us, and I'm not saying I've been perfect, because a lot of us, I don't know if you've read this book. Here I go with another book. I read a lot.
I love it. I listen to a lot of books. Obviously, audio is my
Oh, yeah. That's
choice.
me too, honey. There's this book from Dr. Romani called Don't You Know Who I Am? And it's about narcissistic behavior.
Don't you know who I
Isn't that good? You need to read that book.
I love when people say that. Don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Lord. Does it tell you how to handle those people?
Yep.
Okay.
And you know what? You know what it says? Someone that is truly a narcissistic person, which made me know that I was okay with the decisions I made. People who are truly narcissistic, no matter what you do, you will never convince them that you're right. You're wasting energy. So move on. And I'm like, wow, okay. You're completely wasting it. You will never win. You will never win. You will never win with someone that is truly narcissistic. So there are a lot of personalities like that. And I think, that can play a role. Now, let's talk about the fact that there's no other positions available and you're located. What the heck do you do? For me, I decided to start my business and work part-time. I had the liberty because I have a partner. So let's bring that into play. Some of us don't have that. So then what can you do in order to protect your energy in a place like that? Do you have to sit during lunch and have any additional conversations with people? Could you provide some space in that way? Some of us get into work in these jobs and we tell a little bit too much of our business. We get a little too close.
Ooh.
Protect that energy.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get
I'm
on this
one of
topic?
them. I'll say I'm one of them. I'm usually an open book. And if you've listened to this podcast for more than 1 second, then you probably know that I need to probably shut up a lot of times because I put myself out there. But I also am strategic. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's some people's energy. I'm like, I see you. I feel you. You haven't even said words yet. But I have a few friends that have been working in a certain situations, and it's been like the male-female situation. I'm not saying that, not everybody can be friends with whoever they're attracted to, whatever gender they're attracted to. But there's I think in that workspace, like there's some things that we just don't need to be talking about, like ever. Because now these certain people have left, and there's like text messages like coming after them, like, weren't they married though? Weren't they married? And why are they texting you? What? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't understand. There's never been. I'm like, so wait, but you talked about those things with them, and like, and now we're all confused here. Like, what signals were you putting out there? Just by conversations that you have in the workplace. And I have seen a meme. Life is all within a meme these days. And I saw a meme that was like, I don't see you outside of this, but I know like when you have sex, I know when you're on your period, and I know like your favorite food and when you're getting hangry. And like sometimes there's just too many things we know about our coworkers. And so when we try to step into that leadership role, it doesn't always serve us well because we have been a little too open.
I mean, look at the ADHA code of ethics. Like, keep that in mind. There's ethical boundaries that we should keep in mind. And even though we are around people, there is still a level of professionalism that we should have.
100%. And I think just to kind of all pull this back to like the idea of leadership and what that could look like even in an office or outside of an office. I do feel like, I know we've had an ethics podcast, so go back and listen to that. I feel like everyone's code of ethics, there's a gradient for a lot of people, and that might not match up completely with yours. But as long as you're operating within somewhat of a gray zone, like maybe your Venn diagram, they come together somewhere. Those circles aren't completely opposite. I think that's super important too. And you can't really, if you haven't portrayed a real good work ethic or personal ethics, it's going to be really hard to step into that leadership role.
I actually taught this class in dental hygiene school. I think that there is a code that we should all follow with ethics, but then we have values. So our values are different because that's based on our own culture and our own upbringing. That's where the gradient happens. It's the same thing like there's rules. Like I feel like there's rules and then there's principles.
Mm-hmm.
So if I tell you the rule is don't eat this piece of cake and you decide to say, well, he said not this cake, but maybe if I have this cake or whatever that's right here. He didn't say which cake it was. He didn't say if it was the pink one or the chocolate one. And then they've lost the principle. Like some people feel like there's a rule that in which we should never do any harm to our patients, right? That is the rule. And yet people have their own values, which then becomes gradient, like you mentioned. So we have rules, which is no 55, like a 55 mile per hour. Don't break that, right? And then we have principles. We have principles that we live by. Oh, I'll just go over it just for, 5 miles.
There's that 5 miles.
It's okay.
5, 10. It's fine.
Safe.
There's always that. They won't get you. You won't get a speeding ticket if it's just 5 miles.
Okay. Yeah. I think that is true. That is true. But I think leadership really starts with understanding first with who you are. And I think if you're not sure how to describe that, I would suggest Clifton Strengths Gallup assessment to take that. I recently retook it because they actually recommend to retake it if something big in your life has happened, which was interesting. And all of my strengths that were there let me know that everything I'm doing right now is what I'm supposed to be doing. It let me know all the things that people used to complain about when I was younger are in fact my strengths.
Yes. So I have 2 taken it twice, and 3 out of the 5 are the same. 2 have changed. But I feel like one of the things that you just said, like the things that people complained about, or the things that I saw as like really frustrating are things that I ultimately see as what has made me successful.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so don't be hard on yourself.
Yes, I would start there.
Don't be hard on yourself. My other question for you was like, if there are any other personality tests or things that people should take to really kind of start to understand what they might be good at and where they maybe want to start questioning, could I do this or should I step into this role? I've seen this need in my office, or I've seen this need in my industry. I've seen this need in my community. Maybe it's like myofunctional therapy and you're like, I don't know. Do I take that course? Do I start this business? Do I do these things? Like, is there something out there that they could start to kind of give them that motivation, that push, that shove to take that action?
So there's 2 assessments that I really like. And you have the strength assessment is the one that I would say do that one first. In fact, I only hire now for my business unless I know what their strengths are. So I would say do the strengths. DISC will let you know your type of what kind of communicator you are. I'm a dominant. Okay, obviously. I'm a DC. Okay.
I'm a DI. Oh no, I'm an ID.
Ooh, interesting.
I'm a weirdo.
And then I would say a Kolbe assessment. Kolbe. That was actually very interesting to take for myself to see what type of leader I was and what my particular strengths are. So I would start there. The next thing I'm going to tell you is this, because a lot of you are like, well, step 1 is this, and step 2 is this, and step 3 is this. Listen, figure out what the heck your strengths are. Start with the strengths gallop, because the thing is that it helps us to appreciate we don't have any weaknesses. So there's 34 of them, right? And you have your top 10. There are some things that you are naturally gifted in. So one of the things that I realized that I've always been the person that people will ask, Jasmin, what about this? And what do you think about this? And hey, Jazz, can I find out more information? So I was coaching even before I decided to coach and consult. I was speaking and enjoying it even before I decided to do it professionally. So I leaned into my gifts. So what are yours? Really get still enough to figure out what that is. And then if you're interested in entrepreneurship or any sort of career outside of the op, or even a leadership role in your office, speak it. Stop being so timid and not sharing it. You have to share it. When you speak it out into the world, people are listening. People are there who want to support you in achieving that goal. The longer you wait, the longer you are missing the opportunity to grow something of that you desire, whether it's in the op or outside of the op. And that time is very precious, because when you're growing a brand, you have to understand, one, that you're a brand right now, even though you're just in one practice or two practices. When you're growing something that needs to be seen outside of where you currently are employed, that takes time. It's a long game. And every second you sit not pursuing that goal, you're wasting precious time to build brand visibility. Brand visibility for you for opportunities in corporate, brand visibility for you in opportunities in your office, being seen as a leader. You being timid and not moving forward is not helping you pursue and utilize those God-given talents. So I would suggest that you take the opportunity to reach out to people who you are seeing doing amazing things. Listening to this podcast is one of them. That's where I started. I started listening to Michelle and Andrew. I was a total fan. Okay. And then all of a sudden I was like,
I can't believe it. Look at you. And look at you.
I was totally just totally binging on Michelle and Andrew's podcast. And then I was like, you know what? I want to start a podcast about X, Y, and Z and X, Y, and Z. And I want to start my blog and start, sharing these people who think outside of the box and who enjoy life and their career. Like, there are people that exist that do love what they do. And that's why this podcast is so important. So stop wasting the time, get to work, understand it's going to take a level of work, whether you want to be a speaker, whether you want to work in corporate. You've got to start the work now and start putting that out into the universe and stating it and being firmly planted and understanding that in order to, find your purpose, that is going to take a level of bravery, but that's where happiness is.
Oh, it's so true. And I would love to just finish this up with some things that I have learned and from the leadership is that it can be big or small too. Like, it could be like you just did, like, I'm gonna start a podcast. Like, I'm going to do, it could be something like very out there that other people are going to listen to, or it could just be like, hey guys, I would like to lead the team huddles because I like agenda set. And I like that there's this little snippet of information that I read in a RDH magazine article that I'd like to share with you. I mean, it could be big or small, and those small things are actually very big in a lot of ways. So just step up, like whatever you love to do. For me, I love patient education, and I've been really trying to push in my practice, like, can we implement teledentistry so I can do follow-up on OHI very easily? I mean, just another way that you can grow your practice, market it. I mean, it's something so small. Like, who likes doing OHI? This girl. Like, maybe there's somebody out there that likes to do the business side and wants to help set production goals for the hygiene department. And, whatever that looks like. Maybe you're writing the newsletter for your office. Maybe you're doing the social media content for your office. Maybe you're leading the infection control changes in the charge, since it is so daunting and sometimes very confusing. There's just so much to that leadership world. And I think what you said earlier, Jasmin, is like, stay informed, keep reading, know your strengths and lean into those. Don't get too caught up on your weaknesses. And gosh, emotional intelligence. I think that's a big piece of the puzzle that is missing in a lot of ways, because we lean into that. I want to be in this practice. I want to do this. But if they aren't accepting those changes, and every time you make a suggestion, you just get shut down, maybe it's not the best practice for you. And there's other places that you need to be in life.
Yeah. And if you decide to stay there, know that there's other ways that you could go out and pursue your leadership skills. I started mine volunteering with my state association. Like, those are other ways. You can do so many other volunteer initiatives. I was volunteering with working with persons living with HIV. Whatever makes your heart sing, go out and pursue that. And one of the things I want to, just reiterate, when you see the strengths tests and you see that there's 34, your top 10 are what you lean towards. But honestly, there is no weakness within you. There are just strengths that are naturally easier for you than others. And that's what you want to tap into, and understand that if you see someone else already doing what it is that you desire, there's room for you. If they're successful in it, I built a 6-figure business as a part-time side hustle and brought it to 6 figures. If I can do it, so can you. If I can come up and be a brown lady, an African-American speaker, when no one looks like me at the time when I started, and I'm from Southside Jamaica, Queens, and sometimes I say crazy stuff, but I created a brand that is heart-centered and purpose-led. So can you. Don't look at individuals and think that, oh, well, because they're doing it, I can't. There's room for all of us. And look at how Michelle and Andrew have welcomed me. Even though I was a listener, they brought me on at the very beginning of my journey. Who knows what I was talking about? I won't even listen to that interview. But they brought me on, and they have lived with so much abundance. Look at what Michelle and Andrew have done to change the scope of dental hygiene, to pour into each of you this podcast is hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work. You got to love what you do, and you can make a difference and make an impact in whatever shape that you decide to do it. Don't let anyone tell you what it should be like. It should be about what you want.
Oh, I'm not crying. I'm not crying. Thank you.
Oh, Michelle, I'm serious. Like, you guys have meant so much to me.
Thank you. Oh, and
when I first listened, I was just at a loss. Like, I didn't even know what was out there. I honestly didn't. You've got to understand that you guys, every single time you guys show up on this podcast and you do these interviews, you are creating a magnificent legacy that's going to last for years. And you're part of my legacy. Just think about, there's a number of listeners that you've never even met, that you're helping to shape their careers and their life. That just gives me chills.
Seriously. I mean, no. And that's one thing that Andrew and I definitely do not think. We think we're just sitting here talking to Jasmin, hanging out with a microphone in our face, just normal stuff. And I have to think back at all the people every person that comes on, like people over and over again. Sometimes I feel like it's very selfish of me, because I'm just getting like this full access to these speakers and then just sharing it with some people. But it is, I'm just really grateful ultimately for the people who do come on this podcast, because there's only so much Andrew and I could tell the world. we needed these other voices. And after 5 years of all these people coming on, it still amazes me. It still does. And I have to give credit to anyone who listens, because there's so much content out there now. Like, you could get it from anywhere, anyone, but you're choosing to grow professionally by listening to a podcast every week. And that just is amazing to me.
Yeah. I'm just so thankful. I'm thankful. That's all. I'm grateful. I'm thankful for where I'm at, even on the days where I feel like quitting and just saying, forget your all.
Yeah. And I think that's a good place to close it out, is that and this is something I said very early on in my career, not every day is a good day, but ultimately at the end of the day, I like what I do. I love what I do. There are many times when I've been like, maybe I did not choose well, but then I'm going like, no, of course I did. I literally have a drug-induced high when I pop off calculus, or somebody comes back and they're like, oh my God, my gums feel so good. I mean, it is if they took an MRI, there would be a definite change in my brain waves. Like something would be happening because I love it so much.
Yeah.
So I think it's not every day is going to be a good day. We're going to have those rough times, but I mean, you can't appreciate good days without the bad ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where can people learn more from you?
Well, they can head to my website, which is jasminhaley.com, JasminHaley.com. I'm also on social at It's Jasmin Haley on Facebook and Instagram. And for those in the dental world, although this podcast is retired, if you want to explore entrepreneurship for dentistry, then you can check out Beyond the Prophy, which is a retired podcast, but I leave it up just in case.
There's good stuff on there.
Yeah, Michelle's on there. And just in case if there's, those who are really interested in that entrepreneurship role, they can find information there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and all of your information in this conversation. I always enjoy you so much when you come on. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me once again. I'm so honored. Always. I love you guys.
Oh, ditto. Well, check out Jasmin. You'll see all that stuff in our show notes and definitely follow her on social media. And we hope this touched somebody's hearts today and have a great day. Oh my gosh, Andrew, 250.
250.
What a good one to have for episode 250.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Jasmin.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmin.
I mean, fantastic. And that's 250. I was thinking, like, how many are we really at? Like 250 is like numbered ones. I think we're well into 300.
I would say with all of the bonus episodes, the tip episodes and everything, I mean, there's way more than 300 something content releases, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Minisodes have been out also. But yeah, I mean, I think of the numbered ones, yeah, gosh, 250 is a lot. 250.
And Jasmin was on in the early days. And again, and even we've had her on. She does amazing courses on like cultural diversity. She was come on for that. I feel like, even though we put ourselves out there for the podcast, and if you did start in the very beginning, bless your heart for sticking it out, because
isn't that the truth? Yeah.
But I hope you've heard us grow, especially myself, in the cultural diversity and everything. It's been nice to document it, but a little also scary at the same time.
I know. Well, and that's the thing too, is like I was listening to another podcast just recently, and they were talking about how scared they were because it's a comedian and they are always on stage. They're doing all these interviews. Even during the commercial break at the radio stations, they're very careful about what they're saying, because they're just, anymore, it seems like you say one wrong thing, even if you didn't mean it, like the words just kind of sometimes come out of your mouth and you don't really mean it. And I mean, I'm professionally a little bit embarrassed by some of the things I've said on our podcast and some of the things in the past. But when I look back, I'm like, well, those were actually moments of growth. And I think those are the things that I will always take away from those painful to hear moments, or those painful to see moments of, oh my gosh, that's where I really was there. I can't deny the fact that that's what I really thought, or was really thinking at the time, even if it was a joke or wasn't a joke. There was some truth to that feeling or thought. And so, yeah,
some level of bias caught up in that.
Exactly. So
sentence or that comment.
I'm actually embracing those very ugly parts of myself.
Well, in the ickiness comes the growth, right?
Right. Exactly.
Well, this was a great episode for 250. We hope everybody enjoyed it. And remember, you can always contact us and reach out to us. We would love for you to subscribe to our newsletter, because we often have great deals and recaps and places that you can get the show notes. And also, if we have any CEs expiring, we'll let you know about that. Because yes, you can get CE credit for our podcast. Thank you to PDT for sponsoring that part of the podcast. So go to our website at tale2hygienist.com, subscribe to our newsletter. If you want to reach out to us, you can do that at Michelle at tale2hygienist with an s.com and Andrew at tale2hygienist.com. We would love for you to also follow us on social media, because I do a lot of stories. Andrew does not, because he does not like the video.
Amen, sister.
Even though I try, y'all, I really do. And so you can follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, where we put out stories and release our episodes there. So you get those reminders. But I think that's it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it on my end too. I hope everyone has a great week.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone.